If you were to close your eyes on a warm July afternoon, you would feel a sensation that defines life on Earth. It is constant, gentle, and reliable. But if you could transport your eyes into the center of that star, you would witness a scene of violence beyond human comprehension. The core of the sun is a crushing hellscape where matter is smashed together at 15 million degrees.
It is a nuclear furnace. This brings us to a terrifying paradox. We humans have actually built machines that mimic this process. When we detonate a thermonuclear weapon, a hydrogen bomb, we are creating a star on Earth.
But when that bomb goes off, it releases all its energy in a single, blinding microsecond. It destroys itself and everything around it instantly. The sun, however, is different. It has been burning for 4.5 billion years, and it will burn for another 5 billion.
They are both fusion reactors. They both smash hydrogen atoms together. So why does one vanish in a flash of horror, while the other simmers gently enough to grow tomatoes? The answer challenges everything we assume about power. We imagine the sun as a raging beast, but the truth is that the sun is incredibly inefficient. If you took a cubic meter of the sun's core, the hottest, densest part, it produces about the same amount of heat energy as a compost heap in your backyard. A sleeping reptile actually generates more body heat by volume than the center of our star. The only reason the sun is hot is because it is simply too big to cool down.
To understand why the sun is so reluctant to burn, you have to look at what it eats. When engineers build a hydrogen bomb, they are effectively cheating. They don't fill the casing with ordinary hydrogen found in a glass of water. They use exotic, heavy isotopes called deuterium and tritium. These atoms are like loaded springs.
They already have neutrons attached to them. They are unstable, desperate to bond, and primed to release energy. When you light the spark in a weapon, the reaction is instantaneous because every single atom is ready to go. It is like a room packed with gunpowder. Once it starts, nothing can stop it. The sun does not have this luxury. The sun is fueled by humble, solitary protons, and protons are notoriously difficult characters. They are positively charged, which means they hate being near each other. They are antisocial. In the crushing gravity of the core, they are forced to smash into one another billions of times a second. But here is the catch, and it is the reason we are alive today. When two protons collide, they almost never stick. 99.9 repeating percent of the time, they crash and simply bounce off. To actually fuse and create light, something miraculous has to happen at the exact moment of impact. One of those protons has to undergo a fundamental identity crisis and transform into a neutron. This requires the weak nuclear force, and as the name implies, it is incredibly feeble. It is a statistical long shot. A single proton can crash around the core for billions of years, knocking into its neighbors, waiting for that one lucky moment where the physics align and it finally allows itself to fuse. This creates a massive cosmic bottleneck. Because that transformation is so agonizingly rare, the sun is effectively throttled. It cannot explode. It can only smolder. The energy trickles out, atom by atom, rather than flooding out all at once. If you were to tweak the laws of physics just slightly, if you made that weak nuclear force just a tiny bit stronger, the sun would not be a life giver. It would be a bomb. It would have burned through its entire fuel supply in a few thousand years, detonating in a glorious flash long before the Earth had even finished cooling from its own creation. We would never have existed to see it. This is the great irony of our existence. We are not kept alive by the perfection of the universe, but by its inefficiency. We are protected by the sheer stubbornness of the proton. The heat that warms your face today is the result of that crowded dance floor in the core, where the energy is trapped by nearly 1 million miles of dense plasma. It takes thousands of years for that heat to fight its way out, building up and smoothing out before it finally ripples to the surface as sunshine. So the next time you feel the warmth of the day, remember that you are basking in the glow of a celestial compost heap. It is a reaction so slow, so unlikely, and so beautifully inefficient that it turned a blinding flash of destruction into a 10 billion year afternoon, giving us just enough time to evolve, to look up, and to wonder why. There is a final layer to this mystery, a secret journey that takes place after the fusion reaction happens. We know the sun burns slowly, but even that slow burn creates a tremendous outward pressure. Technically, the sun is exploding. Every single second, the core pushes outward with the force of billions of nuclear weapons, trying to tear the star apart. The only reason it doesn't scatter into the void like a bomb is that it is held in a straitjacket of its own making, gravity. This creates a cosmic stalemate called hydrostatic equilibrium. Gravity pulls everything in, trying to crush the star into a point. Fusion pushes everything out, trying to blow it up. They are perfectly matched. But because of this crushing density, the light created in the core is trapped in a prison. When a photon is born in that nuclear furnace, it cannot just fly out. The plasma is so thick, 10 times denser than lead, that the photon travels only a tiny fraction of a millimeter before it slams into another particle. It bounces, absorbs, and re-emits, changing direction wildly. It is the ultimate drunkard's walk. That single particle of light might bounce around inside the sun for 100,000 years, zigzagging through the crushing depths before it finally finds the surface and escapes into space. That means the sunlight hitting your face right now is not fresh. It was actually created in the core during the time of the Ice Age, or perhaps when early humans were first migrating out of Africa. It has spent all of human history fighting its way out of the star, just to cross the randomness of space and land on your skin 8 minutes later. We are bathed in ancient light, filtered through a star that is essentially an explosion held in check by gravity, burning just inefficiently enough to let us live. But this delicate balance, this 10 billion year truce between gravity and fusion, cannot last forever. Eventually, the hydrogen will run out. The fuel gauge will hit empty. When that happens, the sun will finally change its nature. Gravity will win the wrestling match, crushing the core even harder. And in a last desperate gasp, the star will swell. It will expand outward into a red giant, growing so large it will swallow Mercury, Venus, and likely the Earth itself. The garden where we started this story will be vaporized, returning to the plasma from which it came. Yet even in its death, our sun will not act like a nuclear weapon. It lacks the mass to detonate in a supernova. It won't go out with a bang, but with a sigh. It will gently puff its outer layers into the cosmos, creating a beautiful shell of glowing gas, and leave behind a tiny, dense core, a white dwarf. It will become a cooling ember the size of the Earth, fading slowly until the end of time. This brings us back to the fundamental difference between that terrifying microsecond of a bomb and the eons of the stars. Physics teaches us that the difference between destruction and creation is often just a matter of pacing. A bomb is energy released without patience. It is chaos. A star is that same energy, disciplined by gravity and throttled by the laws of probability. It is a controlled burn that allows complexity, biology, and consciousness to arise. We exist in the long, lucky pause between the spark and the ash. We are the beneficiaries of a universe that decided to take its time. It is strange to think that the most destructive weapon ever invented by humanity operates on the exact same principle as the source of all life. The difference is simply a matter of desperate speed versus cosmic patience. When we unlocked the secrets of the atom in the 20th century, we immediately sought the flash. We wanted the energy of a star, but we wanted it in a microsecond. We wanted it to break things, to end wars, to assert dominance. We built the bomb because we are creatures of the moment, obsessed with the immediate. But the universe plays a much longer game. If the stars burned with the fury of our weapons, the history of the cosmos would have been a short story. It would have been a brief, blinding flash of light in the dark, followed by an eternity of cold. There would have been no time for planets to coalesce from the dust, no time for oceans to fill, and certainly no time for single-celled organisms to drift in the tides, slowly learning how to turn sunlight into sugar, eventually evolving into eyes that could look up and wonder about the lights in the sky. So, in the end, the reason the sun doesn't explode like a nuclear weapon is that the laws of physics seem to favor the journey over the destination. The stubbornness of the proton, that refusal to merge, is the only reason we are here to discuss it. We are the children of a bottleneck. We exist because the sun is bad at being a bomb. And as you stand in that garden feeling that reliable warmth, you are feeling the gentle byproduct of a star fighting against itself, holding back the chaos just enough to let us dream. Let's take a final moment to visualize the sheer scale of the energy being held back by this cosmic bottleneck. In the time it takes you to blink, the sun converts roughly 4 million tons of matter into pure light and heat. To put that in perspective, a single second of the sun's total energy output is greater than all the energy humanity has consumed in our entire history. Every fire ever lit by our ancestors, every steam engine in the Industrial Revolution, every nuclear plant, every tank of gas and every tar. Add it all up, and the sun releases more than that in one solitary heartbeat.
Now, imagine if the sun behaved like a weapon. Imagine if the physics changed and it released 1 billion years of that energy in a single microsecond. The solar system would not just be sterilized, it would be erased. The planets would be stripped to their cores and vaporized before the light even reached our eyes. There would be no physics left to describe the aftermath. But because of that reluctant proton, because of that improbably weak force, that terrifying power is diluted. It is spread out over eons. It transforms a potential weapon of mass destruction into a nursery for life.
This is the ultimate gift of the star. It isn't just heat, it is stability. A bomb offers only a sudden, violent ending. The sun, by refusing to explode, offers us a future. It gives us the luxury of time. So as you stand in the garden, watching the light filter through the leaves, you are witnessing the universe's greatest act of restraint. You are seeing the wildest, most dangerous power in nature tamed by the simple laws of chance, allowing us to live safely right next door to a nuclear inferno.
Ultimately, this story forces us to rethink our definition of perfection. In our human world, in our engineering, in our economics, we value efficiency above all else. We want machines that run without waste. We want reactions that happen instantly. We view delay as a failure.
But in the grand architecture of the cosmos, efficiency is a death sentence. If the sun were efficient, if it were a perfect fusion reactor that converted its fuel without hesitation, it would have sterilized the Earth billions of years ago. We are here only because the universe is messy. We are here because nature allows for hesitation.
It implies that life is not a product of the universe working seamlessly, but rather a byproduct of a cosmic struggle. Every photon that lands on your skin is a survivor of that chaotic, inefficient dance deep in the core. It is a testament to the fact that power without restraint creates nothing but ash. There is a profound humility in realizing that our entire history, the rise of empires, the writing of symphonies, the first steps of a child, is suspended in the gap between a proton's desire to fuse and its inability to do so.
We are living in the pause. So the next time you watch a sunset, watching that great star dip below the horizon, do not just see a ball of gas. See it for what it truly is, a 4 billion year old explosion that is kind enough to take its time. It is the slowest, most reluctant catastrophe in the universe, and in that hesitation, we found the time to live.
It is worth considering just how close we live to the edge. We speak of the sun as a benevolent friend, a gentle giver of life, but physically, strictly speaking, we are orbiting a monster. It is a colossal ball of plasma, held together only by its own crushing weight, constantly trying to blow itself apart with the force of trillions of hydrogen bombs every single second. We are effectively camping next to a bonfire that is 1 million times the size of the Earth, and we are trusting it not to throw a spark.
If you really think about it, looking at the sun should be a terrifying experience, but it isn't. It is comforting, and that is the psychological triumph of the specific quirk of physics. The weak nuclear force transforms absolute terror into absolute comfort. When we watch footage of a nuclear weapon, we see the flash, the shockwave, the mushroom cloud. It is ugly, it is brief, and it is the end of a story. It is energy without a future. But when we look at the sun, we see the beginning of a story. The fundamental difference between a weapon and a star is simply the timeline. A weapon is all the energy now. A star is all the energy eventually. And eventually might just be the most beautiful word in the laws of physics. It means there is a tomorrow. It means the protons will wait. It means the energy will queue up, polite and orderly, waiting 10 million years for its turn to escape. It guarantees that the story continues. So while we fear the microsecond flash that destroys, we owe everything to the 10 billion year burn that sustains. There is a final, humbling perspective to consider as we look up at the sky. We often marvel at the massive, bright stars in the galaxy, the ones that burn blue and hot. But those stars are the rock stars of the cosmos. They live fast, burning through their fuel in just a few million years, and they die in violent, screaming supernovae that scour their systems of any potential life.
They are spectacular, but they are not places to build a home. We circle a yellow dwarf. In the grand catalog of the stars, our sun is mediocre. It is small, it is relatively cool, and it is boring.
And boring is exactly what you want when you are orbiting a nuclear reactor. If our sun were more exciting, we wouldn't be here to talk about it. We are the beneficiaries of that cosmic mediocrity. We survive strictly because the laws of physics imposed a speed limit on destruction, forcing the star to ration its power.
So, as we finish the story, standing in that imaginary garden, we realize that the peace we feel is actually a magnificent illusion. The silence of a sunny day is not an absence of violence, it is a balance of violence. We are safe because the sun is a nuclear weapon that is terrible at detonating. It is a bomb that has been going off for 4.5 billion years, and it has promised to keep exploding, very gently, for 5 billion more. In a universe defined by chaos and entropy, that reliability, that refusal to rush, is perhaps the greatest miracle of all.